Ladies and gentlemen, there are very few guaranteed pleasures in life, but one of those pleasures is receiving a brilliant move from chess.com. There is no higher form of intellectual battle than a one-on-one chess match. And imagine you finish it, and you are so smart. The AI reviews your game and gives you the blue circle with 2 exclamation points. Most of you have experienced this emotion at least once in your life, and if you haven't yet, I imagine it is not too far in the near future that you will feel this level of sophistication and pride. Now, in today's video, I'm going to show you a move that's even better than a brilliant move. I recently played a game, and there was a move in that game that will be classified as an even higher form of move on chess.com. So, without further ado, let's jump right in. Friendly reminder, if you're watching this early in July of 2024, I've got some tournaments coming up, July 10th to 14th, 17th to 21st. You can follow along, just letting you know. And it's good because I need to make more moves like this. Now, I generally don't just cover one-off blitz games, unless they are against, like, top grandmasters. In this game, I was playing in the Title Tuesday Chess Tournament on chess.com, and my opponent was a 24-30 rated player who had a flag of the Netherlands like a few days ago, and now it's China, so I don't know, maybe he's traveled. His name is Vladimir Chernikov, not Vladimir Kramnik. Had I won, we would have had some issues. And in this game, my opponent played knight to f3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this game, and we're going to get to the moment with the new type of genius move. Okay? I played g6. I've got some chess courses, and I have to obviously play what I preach. And I like playing the modern defense. It allows my opponent to turn the game back into some other type of opening. Sometimes people are brave and they play e4. My opponent played d4. I went here, and then here I was very disappointed to see that rather than taking the center, allowing me to fight, from a distance and create a combative game, Vladimir played b3. There is nothing inherently wrong with the move b3, but it is very, very solid, and it's sort of an indication by my opponent that he is going to play very calm developing moves. He's not in a rush to seize the center. When white seizes the center, it then puts the onus on black to fight back. So I played d6, very standard. He puts his bishop here, and now I play this move c5. I could have played c5 a move ago as well. Point is, that is a pin on the pawn. He cannot move his pawn because then I will take his bishop for free, and then I will take his rook. He went e3. Now, the thing is, when your opponents play like this, you generally need to provoke them. If white sets out early in the game to take basically zero risk, and you're playing with black and you're the higher rated player and you kind of have to win because you're playing for something, you have to take some form of risk. And what I did in this game is, from the opening, I took the form of risk by playing knight to h6. So I develop in a way that's completely non-traditional. The reason that I do this is I want to maintain my bishop. Again, you need to know all the rules to break them. If you're a beginner here, you play knight f6 and you don't even think about it. You don't even think about it. You play knight to f6. Maybe you take first, or I will accept these 2 moves as well because you need to keep your development. You don't play knight h6. You need to get to a level in chess to break the rules. Point being, I'm going to put my knight on f5, which is very non-traditional, and I'm going to put pressure on white center. My opponent plays bishop to e2. I play knight to f5. My opponent plays c3. I mean, look at how boring this is, right? And look at how, counterintuitive this is. I mean, you put the bishop, and then you put 2 pawns in front of the bishop. How is that supposed to make sense? Well, actually, Vladimir's doing something very smart here. He's basically saying the knight is out of position, and now I will kick it out of the center. So now it has to spend time moving again, okay? Which kind of makes sense, I kind of got that point. So I castled, he castled, and I realized, all right, I don't have a fantastic position, so let's play b6, and we're gonna try to develop our bishop to this long diagonal. Now at this point, Vladimir should start justifying his good play. He should kick my knight out. If my knight goes back, he should kick this knight out and put me here. And now he just has a very pleasant position where he has more space. But again, I'm kind of trying to bait him into getting this space. Why? Because the more of an advantage that he builds up, the more delicate his position becomes. That's actually the truth. If you take no risk in chess and you just play like this, you're going to kind of get like Israel Adesanya versus Yoel Romero. That's a reference to a cage fight some of you may not have any understanding of, but it was relatively boring and nobody really wanted to throw a punch. Queen c2 is what he plays. Now I begin opening up the position, and we have imbalance. So I took with the c pawn, he took with the e pawn. This leaves me with 2 center pawns versus 1, which is traditionally an advantage. And another thing I have now is I have play on the c file. So I got what I wanted from the opening. I think I created a nice imbalance. He plays this move d5, attacking my knight. And also we are going to be trading pieces soon. Knight to e5, he took, and he plays this move c4. Now, everything Vladimir has done so far has been to play as solidly as possible and as annoying as possible. Because again, if I trade bishops, his queen stands in an advantageous manner versus my king. He actually traded off my better bishop. How do I know it's my better bishop? Well, traditionally, when you compare the quality of your bishops, what you do is you count the amount of pawns that you have on the same color complex. So I have 4 pawns on dark squares and only 3 on light, which means technically I have more things covering the dark squares, which means this bishop can be traded, but it's not accurate. Oops, because if I did this, well, he's targeting my entire light squared setup, plus you can sort of see this bishop is behind a wall. So what did I do? I played knight d4, and I thought this was very smart. I thought I'm guaranteed a bishop now. Really, I'm guaranteed this bishop, because if he goes here, I take with a check. His queen no longer guards the bishop, so I win a piece. And he went here in rook d1, and here I was just thinking, well, I got everything I wanted, right? What do I mean by that? I have 2 bishops. So, you know, I can back up. And now I'm going to spend some time breaking apart his queen side. I'm going to put my rook opposite his queen on the c file, and we're going to play a chess game, as opposed to what we've been playing so far. Now, okay, I played a5 here. It doesn't really make much difference. I anticipated he would move his knight, and then I would move my bishop back. And that's not what happened at all, actually. Here, Vladimir completely changed his tune and went h4. So he begins a kingside attack, which kind of doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. At least that's what I thought in the game, because I was like, well, he has no help. I mean, now I continued with my plan, which is a4. It's actually very normal. You may look at this and go, wait a minute. If takes, then rook takes and queen takes. But the point is, when your opponent has a very stable pawn chain, it is very normal to use your outermost pawns to sacrifice and ultimately break apart the chain. Now, this is a doubled isolated A pawn instead of a beautiful connect 4, and these pawns are also weaker. So be actually a bit more free with your H and A pawns, as we see here, right? And so I played A4. He didn't budge, though. He just went H5, and again, I mean, he's trying to create something, but my pawn is very well protected, so I don't have to panic. Even if I take, by the way, it's bad, but it's not completely lost, but I shouldn't take. So I took on b3 because the whole plan was to weaken his pawns, which I did. I brought my rook into the game. You may be sitting there going, I've watched 7 minutes of a chess video, 8 minutes, I should say. Where is the brilliant move? Well, I would say, you know, brilliant moves at high level of chess don't happen in the first 10 or 15. Like, you gotta get there, all right? So I'm building it up for you. It's a complicated back and forth game. Be patient. So I play this move b5. I thought this was very smart. Why? Because same plan. I want to break apart his structure, double his b pawns, leave him with an isolated pawn in the center. I thought b5 was very smart. The engine doesn't love it, but he took my pawn, which again I thought made no sense because now he has no attack, and then he went here. So his pawns are totally split. He is a pawn up temporarily, but I thought, well, this will be easy. I'm just gonna eat these pawns over time. So I went rook c8, and I backed up to f6. Now, that was a really stupid move. I should have obviously backed up to g7. I don't know why I went to f6. I think I was worried a little bit that he would checkmate me. But this move, now he just targets my bishop, so I have to move it again. So that made absolutely no sense. None. Like, it made... Like, if I was going to go to g7, why would I not just do it? It made no sense. Terrible move. He goes here. Now I'm like, all right. Let's go bishop g7. And at this point, I'm falling behind. So he plays bishop to g4, and this gives me a new lease on life. Bishop g4 is a very creative move. If I move my rook, he attacks it, and it's trapped. So bishop g4, I may need to go here, and then I think he's just going to rotate and bring pieces and start an attack. So what I do here is I do what you do when you have a worse position. I complicate the game, and I create chaos. f5. Now, some of you may be looking at this and going, wait a minute, isn't that just a fork? How does that complicate anything? Well, it complicates things because it's not so simple. If I take and he takes, I'm going to get mated. Not right away, but you know, I'm gonna have to give up my rook, and then I might get mated, and I might get mated in the future, and I might get mated like in the next few moves, and queen. And so I was like, okay, knight to g5. How about this move? Best move. Getting my rook out of the way, stopping the queen from going there. He goes back. And so here is where I turn the game into total chaos. He preserves the right to take the pawn and go for mate, right? And go for mate with his queen and knight. He's also now threatening this. Of course, I can move my queen. So the bishop is still hanging, but it's not really hanging because he still has queen g6. Now, during the game, I did not see a slow move like the queen move. And instead, I went e5. Now, e5 is not the brilliant move, but we're getting to that point. For a move to be considered brilliant, otherworldly, god level, you need the position to have a level of creativity. I thought this move was super creative. Why? Because if he takes me en passant, which I thought was forced, by the way, I only learned after the game that if there is an en passant, you're actually not forced to do it. If he takes me en passant, I open up my queen over here. So again, every time something moves, you got to think about what opens up. The bishop is now closed. And I thought if he plays the move he plays in the game, which is this, I now get my queen out here and I have checkmating ideas of my own. Again, I was worried I was going to get mated, but to give up my rook, which is second nature for me, I thought I would start my own kingside attack. All of this happened, by the way. I played e5, he played knight e6, and I played queen h4. Now, did I think I was winning? No, I thought I was creating winning chances, but I did think this was relatively speculative. He took my rook. Now I have the option to take his bishop or his knight. I opted to take his knight because if I take his bishop, he kind of comes back and starts stripping me of pieces. And I'm not into that. So knight takes here, king takes, and the bishop is a target. He probably should go back. He also could sacrifice. And suddenly I'm the one under attack. So I don't have any opportunity to attack him, and my bishops are very passive. But he played this move, queen a1. Now, during the game, I thought queen a1 was a good move. I'm now forced to play e4, so my bishop is defending my rook. By the way, you'll notice a lot of you here would think, first of all, a lot of you would take this bishop thinking your opponent is an idiot. We need to play chess without assuming our opponents are idiots. So you have to defend your rook. You can defend things by moving them. You can also defend things by protecting them, right? Especially if they're a lower value than what's trying to capture them. And this move is also good because it opens the door to my bishop. Not just to defend the rook, but it opens the door to go here and threaten checkmate, which was sort of my idea all along. Now, this move really confused me, right? So he's attacking my bishop. Now, what did I just say? I literally just said that. Were you paying attention? A lot of you here would see bishop is hanging and try to protect it. We can protect things in chess by literally protecting them, like rook c7. Rook c7 would lose to a different thing, which is why you always look for checks for the opponent. A lot of you would play rook c7 here, blunder the rook. Another thing we can do is move the piece to safety. Another thing we can do, which is something I always try to employ, danger levels. Do I have a threat more powerful than the threat on the bishop? I do, bishop e5. So this is now checkmate, officially. He really should stop it. Now, what my opponent did here is play this move bishop to h3, which is a very logical move. It blocks this, and my bishop is hanging. Worse than my bishop even hanging is there's a little trick here where my opponent can check me first and then take my bishop with a check. So if he just takes my bishop, it's not a check. But if you check me and then take my bishop, it's a check. And so I thought, you know, I don't really see a way forward. If I play slowly, my opponent will have enough time to bring the pieces back, also start trading rooks. Once the rooks are off, I am completely lost. So I did this. A sacrifice of the rook. Rook takes h3. Now, you've waited long enough. Rook takes h3 I thought was a very natural move. Getting to the king. G takes h3. I can go here, etc. But it's a draw. As you can see from the evaluation, why is this a draw, you may wonder? It's a draw because while I do have a very powerful attack, this is mate, but f4 stops it. And this looks terrifying. Absolutely. Like, look at mate, so many mates. But rook f2, and that's it. I don't have enough pieces. You need more attacking pieces than there are defenders, at least by 2. And that's actually what happened in the game. In the game, my opponent went here, gave me a check, took my bishop, and actually blundered because they did it in the wrong move order. And here I was winning. So here in the game, instead of taking, I had to give a check and then go queen f4. So I had to give a check, force the king to the corner, and play this. And this is an unstoppable checkmate. I didn't realize that. I took, now f4 saves the day. I took and I thought, oh, this is an easy win. But it's blitz, you miss things. I don't have anything here. But unfortunately for my opponent, they actually panic. And they ended up losing the game. And I did get through, I promoted, and I swarmed. Now, my opponent lost this game because there was not enough time on the clock, right? And I blundered in this game because I saw my opponent's got 10 seconds. So there was a better way to break through. Now, what I just showed you, okay? Rook takes h3. It's a very natural move. White is relying on these checks to survive and potentially taking my bishop. Now, I would like to show you, at long last, the top computer move in this position for black. This move is more than brilliant. This is the only move that wins the game. And that move is bishop c6. This move, I really wish there was just a thing on chess.com that is beyond brilliant. Something in purple. When you look at this move, it looks like a mouselet. I mean, it doesn't even begin to make sense. What? How? What? You're going to lose the bishop anyway, right? You're going to lose the bishop anyway. How can you possibly go there? What is this even? What? Let me explain. The bishop you cannot take it. The bishop is not capturable. The only move here that survives for white is the move f4. The move f4, as I just told you, gives the king breathing room. That's it. After e takes f3, the other purpose of the move f4 is to bring the queen back to trade queens so you don't lose. It's to play queen f2 and try to survive the endgame. But why is it bishop c6? Here's why. In the game, my threat of rook takes h3 was to go for checkmate. And if takes, it's not queen h3 because you saw f4. It's this, king h1, queen f4. Wait, but didn't we just say, I just showed this is a win for black. This is completely winning. There's no way to stop mate. But there is. How? If the king runs, it's mate. The rooks can't help. How is the queen going to get there? It's not. The queen is going to check the king. Wait, but the king just runs. What? Haven't we just looked at this? No. The way white survives is by giving a check, dancing around the bishop, and it's a draw. If the king goes here, you come here, check, you keep dancing on these squares. Now, if the king ever goes to h6, queen c1! The queen goes all the way back, and before you get mated, you force a queen trade. Queen c1 is the critical defensive resource. What we saw in the game was my opponent did what any human would do. He took a free bishop with check. What could be more natural? But he's losing. He's losing because now he doesn't get to c1 and he has no more checks. You have to avoid the bishop and go all the way back to c1. That is the way you survive this attack, but you can't survive it anymore. So then bishop c6 is the best move, because if the bishop is taken, the c-file is closed. You offer your bishop as a sacrifice on your opponent's turn. So this is possible, and there is no journey to c1. Queen b8, king g7, queen c7, and the pawn blocks the queen's route back to c1. This is an unfathomable move. It is crazy, bishop c6. And now the craziest part about bishop c6 is you try to save the bishop. So queen b8 check is a draw. King g7, queen c7, king h6. You can sack the queen to get a passed pawn. You can also sack the queen to go back to c1. So bishop c6, queen b8, you save the bishop. You just save it. You don't ever lose the bishop, and you still threaten this. So the point is, bishop c6 is like, you better take me now, or else here, right? I escape. You can't take me now, because if you take me now, you don't have the c-file access. So the only way to survive bishop c6 is to play f4. So two bishops are hanging, and you try to escape with the king, and now the top engine line is e takes f3, queen back to f2, queen f4 threatening mate again, g3. You don't trade the queens because then you're losing because your bishop is hanging. So you go queen g5 threatening bishop g3. This bishop is continuously hanging. Now you take bishop g3, you sacrifice the queen, rook f3, and this position is winning for black if you find bishop e1 check, bishop a5, stopping both pawns, and not just stopping both pawns, but also going to b6, where you threaten checkmate if the rook ever gets off the file, and the game is dynamically in the balance with winning chances for both sides. I have never seen a move like bishop c6 in my life. It is so deep. There are so many points. The most direct one is the fact that the c-file route is closed. But then you try to save the bishop. Now white has to catch up, but the bishop hangs in so many lines, and black needs to play perfectly while the bishop is dying there on c6. It's just incredible. I haven't seen a move like this maybe ever in my life. It's such an easy move once you explain it, and yet it's still so complicated. But none of that happened because we're two idiotic humans. I sacrificed this. He hung checkmate. I didn't see it. Then I was completely lost because he just needs to play a better defensive move here. He proceeded to panic, and I got two queens. And then I traded, and then I won the game. So, chess.com, please add a new move that is so genius. It's got a whole different color. It's got a whole different name, and it like unlocks in certain situations. That's all I have for you today. If you're going to watch my tournament, it starts July 10th. I will be uploading recaps, and I will try to do live streams as well. All of that is, I've covered it a lot. It's in the Road to GM playlist here on the Gotham Chess YouTube channel. In the meantime, you can check out some courses on Chessly. Plenty of free samples there. I'll see you in the next video. Get out of here.